You're listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. From our studios come special guests and netball commentary, exclusively on YouTube.
G'day listeners, welcome back to the 3 Feet Radio Show. This time next week it'll be day 1 of the Netball World Cup, and joining me in the studio to preview all things Netball World Cup is my co-host Luke Herbert. G'day Luke.
G'day Ben, and this is what netball fans and some casual sporting fans have been waiting for, and it's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, most definitely has. The last time we saw a Netball World Cup in Australia was back in 1991, also in Sydney. Obviously not in the high-tech plush venue like Allphones Arena that they have, or Netball Central, but it was a long time ago. And the last one was in 2011 back in Singapore, and as you say, it certainly was a long time coming. But I think also, like you mentioned, casual sporting fans, if they can get interest in netball through watching this World Cup tournament, hopefully it'll translate into more bums on seats and more people watching the ANZ Championship, as Netball Australia CEO Kate Palmer did mention to us when we chatted to her a couple of shows ago.
Absolutely. The flow-on effect hopefully will be to grow the fan base and TV viewership of the ANZ Championship, and I think that's what really is required in Australia. Netball needs that shot in the arm, don't you think, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the shot in the arm, because in Australia, it's a bit different to the market in New Zealand. When people say, it's more popular in New Zealand, why isn't it more popular in Australia? It's a different market because there's less football codes to contend with in New Zealand compared to here, and we've discussed that previously too. And I think if we can get everything right and the viewers are good and the ticket sales are going through the roof from what we hear so far, and TV rights are all ready to go, I think that the ANZ Championship next year will be even better, and we'll have a lot more people going along and watching the games, which is just great for netball.
Now we're going to look at, what teams are in which pools, and for the benefit of the listener, I'm kicking this off of Pool A. And in Pool A we have, I'm probably just going to read out the draw for Pool A. New Zealand play Barbados, Australia play Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago play New Zealand, Barbados plays Australia. We have Trinidad and Tobago playing Barbados. And then we have one of the games that will be one of them that I think, is must watch, Australia versus New Zealand, or Australian Diamonds versus the Silver Ferns. So why don't you take us to Pool B, Ben?
Just quickly, Luke, I must say it's going to be amazing to be able to see Australia and New Zealand play in a pool match. I don't think we've seen that for a long, long time. I think it's one of the most anticipated, if not the most anticipated, pool match across the entire tournament. It's going to be huge.
It will be huge, but there are other exciting pool games that I think, we will need to deal with. But before we get to them, kick us off with the next pool group.
Yep. Next pool group is Pool B. The games for that pool are Jamaica taking on Samoa, England taking on Scotland, Samoa taking on Scotland, Jamaica taking on England, and England taking on Samoa, Scotland taking on Jamaica is the final game in that pool. And I think the game to watch in Pool B will be Jamaica versus England. This is pretty much, I think, the two teams that will wrestle for probably the bronze medal or the silver medal. I think that's what that will come down to anyway, Luke.
Well, we'll come back to that just in one moment, because we have the next pool, which I think is Pool C.
Yes.
Singapore plays Sri Lanka, Malawi plays South Africa, and that'll be a very good game. South Africa plays Singapore, Sri Lanka plays Malawi, Malawi of course plays Singapore, and lastly South Africa plays Sri Lanka. So South Africa-Malawi is the game of Pool C. But then, then just kick us off with the last pool game, and then I think we'll move on to how the teams will fare.
Hang on, I'll take that. I'll take that again. Okay, and in Pool D we've got Fiji Wales, which I believe is the first game of the entire tournament. 9:50 a.m. at Netball Central, the Netball World Cup secondary venue next Friday, the 7th of August. Uganda Zambia, Uganda Fiji, Wales Zambia, Zambia Fiji, Uganda Wales, and the game of the pool in Pool D will probably be Fiji and Wales. Although, as we discussed off air, Luke, if Uganda had the amount of little bit more funding, they would be pushing the likes of Malawi and South Africa, because Uganda in recent years have really come up the pecking order a bit, haven't they?
Well, some of those African nations, you take, say, Botswana and Uganda, if they can put together some decent pathways for development plays, clubs, and a pathway to the national side and develop some good coaches and umpires, you could really see the growth of African netball, because while I'm not suggesting those African nations could match Australia and New Zealand, it would really be good to see a very strong African Cup, and it would be very good that, if they did come out to New Zealand or Australia or in England, in between World Cups, that, okay, they wouldn't beat those sides, but, it'd be good if they put together some competitive sides out on court.
It would be. You just have to remember a couple of years ago when Malawi came out here. I actually was lucky enough to watch them play the Diamonds up on the Gold Coast. And although they didn't necessarily win the games, the 2 games they played, they certainly showed the potential they've got and also the flair. As we know, Malawi play with a lot of flair. And sometimes that flair is something that a lot of people haven't seen before. And it certainly makes people more interested in those countries too.
Yeah, and, while we're speaking of flair, who's your pick to win the tournament, Ben?
My pick to win the tournament may sound biased because I'm an Aussie, but I think the Australian Diamonds will do it, and I think it'll be credit where it's due, hopefully, to Lisa Alexander, the Diamonds coach, her selectors, the support staff, and everyone else involved in making sure the Diamonds get on court and play good netball.
Yeah, I think this is Australia's World Cup, and, I'm not 100% sure who they're going to play in the final. They could perhaps play England in the final, and I think, speaking of England, the real question for me for this World Cup is how England goes. Did they shoot their bolt at the Commonwealth Games, or are they going to come back stronger under their new coach, and, are they going to grab a silver medal? So how do you think England goes, Ben?
Well, I think with the new coach in there and Tracy Neville coming on board has been great for them, really good. And as Jiva Mentor said when we interviewed her a couple of weeks ago, she is very confident that they can set a tone for what happened over in Glasgow. Although we're not exactly sure about what's going on off the court with England netball. We know it's been plagued by administration problems and board issues for several years now. But if they've got everything right now, hopefully it's reflected in what they can do on court at the World Championships. So yeah, it could be either England or New Zealand. But I think a major upset, but I don't think it could happen. But it possibly could. You don't know. It is a World Championships, remember. Jamaica. But we don't really know about Jamaica, do we? Because with quite a few of their top players playing the ANZ Championship, or some of their players also playing basketball in America, etc., unless it's a World Cup or a Commonwealth Games, they never put their strongest team out on court. So they're a bit hard to read, Jamaica.
Well, I think they'd have a strong shooting end.
Yeah.
The defensive end and perhaps the midcourt would have some question marks over it.
Mm.
So I certainly think another team to watch, although they are outside the group of what you think of as main contenders, is Malawi. So now, what are your thoughts on Malawi at the World Champs?
Well, Malawi have proven time and time again that with little resources, you can perform well. And I think it's an example that the likes of Uganda, etc., can take solace from or examples from. Although, like you did say, Luke, there needs to be proper player pathways, etc., and what have you. And I think Michael Wenda has benefited from playing in the ANZ Championship and also being part of the elite player pathway in Victoria here in Australia. And I think she's done a lot for netball in Malawi. And I think she will be the linchpin for the Malawi side. And that they've got plenty of good players. They just need opportunities, those players. If they come out here and play state league like Michael Wenda did, I'm sure they may not make it to, say, ANZ, but they'll be very, very good players the level below the ANZ, and they can take that back to their country and once again prove that if you have the time, if you're given the time and the and money and what have you to develop, you can do pretty well. Malawi have always batted well above their average, and I think we'll see them maybe pull off a couple of upsets again at this World Championships.
And just while we're speaking of players, there are some players that are going to be playing in their 5th World Cup, which is quite a feat. One of them is Leanna de Bruin, who I must admit, I'm a bit of a fan of. She's a bit of a legend. Sonia McCloma is another one of those players. So, why don't you just go over the rest of them, Ben, so I'm not droning on and on to the listener.
So all up, as you said, you've got Leanna de Bruin, Sonia McCloma, Trinidad and Tobago's Rhonda John Davis, the wing defence for Trinidad and Tobago. I think that makes it. I think it's 3, and they join. It is 3 in fact, and they join Jean Pierre from Trinidad and Tobago, Jennifer Frank from Trinidad and Tobago, Janet Johnson from Jamaica, former Jamaican coach Connie Francis, who also I believe was captain of Jamaica, Elizabeth Rogers from Northern Ireland, and most recently Irene Van Dyke, who of course no doubt will be around the Netball World Cup in ambassadorial roles, might do a bit of commentary here and there, and it's great to see Irene being involved, and I believe Irene's recently been over in Scotland working with the Scottish team and helping out her friend in Gail Parada. So it's great to see Irene doing, but I think it just shows that although a lot of these players probably haven't played ANZ Championship or you may have not heard of them, it just shows longevity in the game, and I think representing a country at a World Champs is still the pinnacle.
And speaking of countries, Leanna de Bruin is of course originally from South Africa, which brings me to Norma Plummer, who is coaching South Africa at the World Cup. So, what do you think of Norma Plummer taking up that role?
Having had a little bit to do with Norma over the years when she was the Australian coach, I think it's a great move from Norma. Norma obviously was coaching in the ANZ Championship, coaching the West Coast Fever, and put a lot of the things in place that helped the West Coast Fever get as far as they did this year, which was based on history, their best performed season in the ANZ Championship. Norma will, I think, bring a hard edge to South Africa. Norma has always been a coach that tells it like it is and has a very hard approach to her coaching. Excuse me, and I think that will certainly help South Africa to go quite far. South Africa may not get a medal, but I can see South Africa probably finishing within the top 5 like they traditionally do. So it'll be interesting to see how Norma goes.
Yeah, I think Norma was a good choice for coach for South Africa, at the World Cup, and I also think it's good that South Africa has, they've created this sort of own elite sort of league that they have going, which has been desperately needed over there for a number of years. So South African netball's heading the right direction. It will be interesting to see how economic issues back in South Africa, such as the high rate of unemployment, do affect the commercial development of the game of netball in that country, but that is a discussion for another time, and perhaps not even on 3 Feet Radio because of the political dimension that exists. But and just while, we're sort of swinging the ball wildly around the court as I just did then, I think it's time to move on to the commentary team who TV viewers will hear and see. So do you want to, take the first centre pass on that, Ben?
Yeah, Luke, I can. These guys will be part of the commentary team for the World Feed. Obviously, like you get a big sporting event, you have a World Feed, which is just basically a production company that produces the coverage, and then it goes out to different channels around the world. The Netball World Cup 2015 broadcasters currently will include Fox Sports in Australia, Network 10 in Australia will do the Australian Diamonds games, Sky Sport in New Zealand, Super Sport in Africa, and Sky Sports into the UK. Obviously, there'll be more exciting announcements to come with regards to other countries and their TV rights. The commentary team will include Temapara Bailey, Kath Cox, Liz Ellis, Sue Gordian, Mel McLaughlin, who's an experienced Australian sports broadcaster. For those of you who don't know who she is, she was previously with Fox Sports and then moved to Channel 10. Is a big soccer fan, has done a lot of soccer commentary, and has done a little bit of netball through the ANZ Championship coverage and has done reasonably well. Sherelle McMahon, Anita Naven, adding the English flavour there. Dan Ryan, a good friend of the show who has been a guest of ours before and a good mate of mine. I went to university with Dan. Good luck to you, by the way, Dan, heading to coach the Manchester Thunder in the UK Super League next year, where he'll also be Director of Netball. Kelly Underwood, who has called ANZ Championship and Australian Diamonds Test matches for a long time, since 2009. And Jenny Woods from New Zealand, who I'm sure you would know her dulcet tones, Luke. She calls the ANZ Championship for Sky.
Yeah, those who have Sky TV will know her. And I think that's going to be a very good commentary lineup. And I do think that there's a nice balance there between professional broadcasters and former players to offer their expertise. So I think the TV viewers perhaps never been quite so well served by a commentary team at the World Cup. Would you agree, Ben?
I agree, Luke, and I think the good thing too with that talent team is that they're also going to have other roles across the World Cup event. So they're going to include corporate hosting, sports presentations, and leading the coaching and umpiring seminars that are being conducted as part of the Netball World Cup, and workshops and Master of Ceremony roles in FanFest, which will be the event social hub. So it's probably good. They get to mix it up, not just commentate, but also use their skills in other areas as well.
Yeah, and, lastly, just to throw you under the bus as we do, pick the winning margin for the final.
Oh, if we look at what happened in Singapore back in 2011 when Caitlin Bassett shot that goal, I think anywhere from 1 to 5 goals.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think it's probably going to be closer to 5 to 10 goals with the Australians winning, but that's just my feeling at this stage.
I'm sure you'll change that as the pool play goes on, though, Luke.
Well, perhaps, yes. We'll just have to wait and see. As I mentioned on the show, it could well be, an England-Australia final, which would, it'll have a few Silver fans disappointed, but it would certainly, be good for the game globally.
I'm sure it would be, and g'day also to Jiva Mentor's mum in Yvonne Mentor, who does listen to our show from time to time. Hope you're enjoying your time here down under, and hopefully you get to Sydney quickly and safely to watch your daughter play.
All right, then. Thank you very much for having me in the studio once again, Ben, and to the listeners, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Luke.
You've been listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. Tune in next time for more special guests and netball commentary exclusively on YouTube.